have more to say unless you have questions. I just want to wish you, those who come from Italy, a pleasant stay. I'm sure you will enjoy it. I'm sure you will learn a lot. To the Lebanese friends, I'm sure there will be a lot to talk about, and the exchange will reveal a lot of things in common between Italy and Lebanon. I'm always amazed to find how, especially I come from Sicily, I realize how similar the societies are sometimes. You know, in the fact that we have first, you know, a structure that is revolves around families and groups, and then the state. You know, and so that's historical, and it's very similar in Lebanon. We might not have the religious component of it as here. But it's, we are part of the Mediterranean. We share a lot of similar culture and history, and I'm sure that this dialogue is going to be very productive. One more thing I want to add is that as part of UNDP's work, we work on many issues, from democracy and elections, human rights, to environmental conservation. We work on local development. We work on supporting the clearance of mines. But there is one aspect of the work which I find very interesting, which is to connect territories from Europe to territories in Lebanon. For example, exchange of knowledge and collaboration between regions or cities in Italy or in Spain or France, and cities and regions in Lebanon. So we've had here the region of Tuscany, the region of Piemonte, Sicily, the city of Arezzo, universities, and that's where you see this connection happening. We have officers from these institutions coming here with knowing anything, and the same happen on the other side. And when they leave, they realize that, well, they have similar issues when they do the day-to-day job. If you're running a health center, or if you have to deal with water, or if you have to promote employment, or you have to take care of youth, well, the same thing that happened in Torino or in Arezzo, maybe on a different scale, but it's the same thing that happens here in Shia or in Beirut or in Tripoli or in Libya. So this kind of cooperation I find it especially productive, and I'm especially proud of promoting it. Monica, I will stop here. If there's any question,
yes,
anything, whether it is about what we do or about how to enter into the UN, I don't have that answer. But maybe some advice on career. I mean, I think it would be it's a pleasure. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, sorry. For an internship in the UN this summer, we should go on the side and just yeah.
Yes, there is a procedure. You submit an application for internship, and normally we take a few every year. Especially though those who have to do an internship as part of their master. So that's the preferred way, because it's a requirement of certain master degrees that to do a period of internship. So those are the ones that we take from. But anyway,
okay, and I wanted to ask you another question concerning the refugees. Is there a limit of people? I mean, like in Turkey, they take only a limit of certain people there, the refugees, and here in Lebanon they took everyone.
Yes.
I mean, it's just a question.
I mean, from the point of view of strictly humanitarian principles and obligations under the international law, what you're doing is the right thing. You are keeping the border open, and you are letting everybody in with very few restrictions. You're also not setting up camps, which is also, from the United Nations and humanitarian perspective, the best solution. Why? Because camps are normally not the best. I mean, it's the second best to live in the streets, of course, but it's not the preferred modality. So the way Lebanon is becoming actually a case study in the humanitarian world on how to manage the situation of the refugees without setting camps and keeping order of this. Okay, having said that, there are also reasons for Lebanon not to do so. You know better than I do how sensitive the issue of the refugee is in Lebanon, and how sensitive the issue of camps is in Lebanon. Closing the border means creating tensions within Lebanon for those people, especially who are supporting the rebels in Syria. Creating camps means evoking the specter of and the ghost of the experience of the Palestinian refugees. Controlling the border is also something that the army is not in a condition to do, because the army in Lebanon is responsible not only for the defense of the borders, but is de facto in charge of the security inside. And by the way, they are doing an extraordinary job. Even if in normal circumstances the police should do that, but the police is still very, it's not as strong. So in Lebanon, the army is de facto also the police, and they are overstretched already trying to secure all the places in Lebanon, and they don't have the capacity to control the border as well. So there are ethical, humanitarian reasons for doing that, and there are also political reasons why Lebanon is doing this. And honestly, every time we can, we reiterate to the president of Lebanon and all the authorities in Lebanon how the international community is recognizing the policy adopted by Lebanon, keeping the borders open. And it's something that all the time is constantly repeated. How long can this situation be maintained? I don't know. Because when you reach 1 million refugees, and we're projecting 1.5 already for next year, there might be an absorption. Some European countries have come forward and have said that we will take some of the refugees, but we're talking about the most generous has been Germany with 5,000 people, so not a lot.
Anybody else?
We are now working for the Act for Mediterranean citizenship. Okay, it's the cultural exchange. It's gonna be for only 7 days. How far can it lead, and how the UN can help us enhance this project? How can we support this project for a long term and maintain the contact with this Italian and work as a group for this project?
I think you have to think more in terms of what you can do. I mean, I see all of you as they call it the multipliers. You know, you learn, and then you spread what you've learned to your colleagues, your friends, and you apply what you learn in your job. Once I'm sure you will have one very soon, and very soon you will have a career, and you will apply this principle into your work. The principles of friendship and tolerance and curiosity for the other and respect. Hopefully you will want to join the United Nations or an international NGO or work in the government, wherever you decide to work. I think the most important thing to keep the project alive is that you keep applying this principle. And at the same time, nowadays there are so many ways to keep in touch, and through internet and social media and platform. I think your question is very important to be also asked to those who design the project and say, okay, how can we keep this going? And we just don't go back to Beirut and Rome and forget about it.
Keep it alive.
Keep it alive, honestly. But I think the investment that has been made on you will have to take it as a responsibility that you have now to keep it alive. Not maybe the project itself, but the spirit of it. I think it's very important.
Because now we are very motivated, so we don't want that it's finished within a week and everyone to its country, as you said. So, okay, the technology now helps us to maintain the contact, but also when it's getting more official and supported by the NGO like Armadillo and Makhzoumi Foundation and the UN. So it's like more official. We are maybe groups to go back to Italy, maybe the Lebanese also to work on the project, to always have a certain people resident here in Lebanon, those who want to continue their studies and they can also work on the project. So it's like a recommendation, an expectation, and a wish, and I'm sure we all agree on this.
Exactly, I hope so. And I know, I'm always, Lebanese, I think you are some of the most creative and entrepreneurial people. I mean, I've seen in Lebanon some of the most interesting cases of organizations that are not just charity, but they combine social work with business. And that's a fantastic model, I think, because a lot of time you want to work, you want to do social work, but you are discouraged by the fact that normally NGOs are sort of small and you don't make a career, you don't. But in Lebanon, I've seen organizations that do extremely effective social work, but with a business mentality, with a social business mentality, and I think it's one way, to engage in this either this organization or normal NGO is one way or create your own. But to really become active in this, because right now in Italy as in Lebanon, if you read what the Secretary General of the UN said, last month was International Day of Democracy, no? So we celebrate. But I found it very interesting what the Secretary General said in this message. He said the biggest enemy of democracy right now is apathy. Meaning, you could have said corruption, you could have said, I don't know, but no, he said apathy. What it means? Apathy means when you don't have feelings. And when the citizenship is not engaged. We have a lot of countries that call themselves democracy, but somehow there's been too much distance between the citizenship and the politicians. And we feel very much disengaged because we are not interested, because we are disappointed. So we need to recuperate that space, which is the space of the citizen, and to become active citizen. Otherwise, how can you expect change if you don't act for it? If you expect you go and vote, and that's all you do, and some people don't even do that, then obviously you don't have even don't have a right to complain. So this issue of active citizenship, I think for me and all the potential that the social media and the new tools offer to people that have that drive and that passion is really important. So then do it now when you still have that passion, because in 20 years maybe you will not you will not anymore. Yes.
Yeah, my question is a bit connected to Anna's question, because this project we are participating now, it's sponsored by European Union. So I wonder how much United Nations is interested in the Mediterranean area, in connecting the different countries, and if United Nations is sponsoring or I don't know, supporting somehow this kind of projects. So that's the question.
Well, as UN, I don't know of any initiative, at least not that I know. There might be, and remember, here I'm dealing with Lebanon only. I don't know of initiatives that are similar to these ones. There might be some, maybe UNESCO that normally does this kind of projects. Your best bet is the EU. The EU has this policy called the European Neighbouring Policy Initiative, and you will see in the next few years a lot of funds being channeled through non-traditional actors such as local government and NGO, etc. So I would expect projects like this to become more frequent. At the same time, I invite you to find ways, to create your own, project and initiative. And you can start with, I don't know if you're Lebanese or Italian. Okay. You can start, in Italy, something like that. We need initiatives like this, even in Italy.
But then I wonder if the United Nations will support me.
I doubt. I'm sorry, but we are an organization with big feet. We tend to work on large scale, governments. So we don't have that. But it's more complicated for us to reach out to small NGOs or even individuals. That's where organizations like Manila or local NGOs are better. That's why we tend to work with them when we have to reach that.
We can intermediate the relationship.
We tend to be, working with president, the ministers, and maybe the mayors. We are, after all, a governmental institution. But when it comes to reaching civil society, etc., then we tend to partner with NGOs that are better. Yes.
Besides the current emergency related to the Syrian crisis, what are the main areas of interest of the UNDP in Lebanon and in the region, in the Middle East?
Yeah. Well, UNDP as a general mandate is to fight poverty. But when you say fight poverty, it means we look at all the elements that are behind why an individual or a group is in poor condition. We look at governance, we look at access to natural resources, we looked at security. So our work is divided into 4 main areas. Well, one is democratic governance, and here the most important work we do is the support to the electoral process and the work in the promotion of human rights. The electoral process in Lebanon is a bit it's been put in the freezer right now, but we still continue to work with the Minister of Interior, etc. Then we have local development, which is working mostly in the municipalities that are with the highest level of vulnerability, and we do what is called area-based development. We take one area and we help organize mechanisms for the community to decide what their priorities are, and then we fund some of this program. It could be water, waste management, support to income generation, support to youth, and support to the capacity of the municipality. We work in environment and renewable energy, conservation of biodiversity, climate change adaptation, promotion of renewable sources such as wind, solar, and we work in conflict prevention and peacebuilding. In this area we work with the Lebanese army in clearing mines that have been left here from the civil war, as well as the cluster munitions that have been left here by Israel during the 2006 war. And we also work on disaster risk management. So it's a variety. We have about 50 projects, and overall 350 people working all around Lebanon. I have to be generic. If you want all the details, go to www.undp.org.lb, or I will leave you with this. I only have one because so it's here.
You just know what the main focus
Well, we employ all kinds of people: engineers, project managers, agronomists, economists, lawyers. Also journal communication people, IT, yeah, and sometimes people who study political science.